Hello and welcome to the London United Filmmaker Podcast. My name is Gregory Randolph. I'm a writer and director from Boston, Massachusetts. I currently live in London, where I attended the London Film School. This podcast is an opportunity for me to tell you about emerging filmmakers currently active in the UK from around the world. Today, I'm happy to have Jack Salvadori on the podcast. Jack is a writer and director from Rome, Italy. His most recent film, Blondi, is about a German shepherd who bears witness to historical events while trying to play catch with his master, Adolf Hitler. The film will soon be seen at festivals and is a remarkable achievement. Jack Salvadori, thank you so much for being on the London United Filmmaker Podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah. Jack, I just want to thank you so much for being at the screening we had last night at Battersea Labour Club. Great to see you there. Great to meet you there.
Yeah.
Alice Gagari said such nice things about you working together on Blondi, a film that is absolutely magnificent. I don't want to talk too much about it right now. I want to have a full conversation about it, but it's just an absolutely fascinating perspective and just a really amazing film. And I'm just super excited to see where it goes because I know really great things are going to happen with it.
Fingers crossed, yes.
Yeah, I really, so just congratulations on that. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make the screening previously, but Ignacio Martin also said really, really nice things. And early on, he was the first interview I had on this podcast. He said, you got to get Jack on. So I'm glad we finally got you here. But I, in just doing a little research on your previous films, you've been highly successful and you're a true filmmaker. It really seems like you're absolutely dedicated to it. And so that's, again, one reason why it was exciting to meet you last night and just have you screen some of my work and just, we get to know each other better. And I think this podcast will be able to just learn a little bit more about the types of films you make. And just get a better sense of who you are and what type of stories you're trying to tell.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, congratulations again on yesterday.
Thank you.
I think for those who have missed it, your movies were fantastic. So
thank you.
Really had the blast.
Yeah. It's trying something new for sure. With the screening, that screening area, just trying to think outside the box a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully we do more of these kinds of events in maybe some different spaces we haven't. I've been starting to do research into kind of budget-friendly spaces where we can hang out after and just kind of create a community that's...
Yeah, it's not easy in London to find these venues that allow you, especially if you are a young filmmaker, to showcase your work and just experiment with, it's not easy. So
it's not, and even you saw those little screen issues, some of the stuff was a little bit more punched in that I wanted. I should have done more research. Because I think if it's all well and good to want to screen an X and Y venue outside of kind of a proper cinema, but you got to make sure that the image is that wasn't, and it wasn't with Different Faces and Swimming. There was a little bit the projection wasn't perfect. So in the future, but again, learning experience, and I hopefully you got just a general idea of the film. So thank you so much for the kind words. But let's talk about Jack Salvadori and your beginnings. I want to get a little bit of a sense of what got you into filmmaking, and maybe a little bit about where you're from, and just kind of your journey from going to Royal Holloway to study film, and just I'd like to hear up until that.
Well, once upon a time, I was born and raised in Rome, and I always wanted to make films. There was never a plan B for me. It was just cinema. I'm not sure why, but as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. I think cinema has always been there for me. I don't have any brothers or sisters, so it was really my companion every time I was coming back from school. It was something to look forward to, and it became a daily activity for me and a devotion that expanded throughout all my life since the very early beginnings. And it saved me in many ways. It made me. So that's why I feel just compelled to give back all I have to making movies. I went to Royal Holloway, as you mentioned. there was a good course about 10 years ago. I hope it's still there. I think a lot of things have changed now, but it was a good mixture of practice and theory, which is what I really wanted. I wanted to, of course, I already had seen a lot of movies, but I wanted to see even more, and I wanted to get a more theoretical approach towards filmmaking. And of course, also getting my hands dirty with finally making some movies. But I think if I didn't have enough background, I would feel a little bit as an imposter being behind the camera. And so, yeah, Royal Holloway was a great battlefield to explore and experiment my skills, to find my voice even. But that was a long time ago. But I loved it.
Yeah. No, I was lucky enough. One of the films we screened last night was Wishful Thinking, and that was a Royal Holloway production in regards to the producing program there. What program were you part of at Royal Holloway?
So the course the first year was a little bit of everything, which is great because it allows you to, if you're not sure what you want to do, you get to taste all the different flavors of filmmaking. Now I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I'm a writer-director, so that's what I specialized in the second year and third year. It was just writing and directing, and then finally just directing.
Amazing. And it's a filmmaking program essentially, where you kind of pick your course of study after the first year.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
It used to be like that. Again, I think things might have changed.
Got it. I think what I was a part of was an MA in producing, but I'm not certain. But that's fantastic. Wow, I don't know if I've had anyone on the podcast with like such a dedication and such an understanding of what they wanted to be. It sounds like from birth.
Well, I'm not sure why directing always applied to my desires, but I think it's, I always like to be a storyteller, and it's not about power, it's not about control, it's just about having your own voice. And I think, of course, you can express yourself in any field in cinema. A cinematographer has a very strong voice, of course, but I found through directing maybe the missing link between all the other art forms, all the other things that otherwise wouldn't be joined together. And through direction, I could explore a bit of everything. And that's why it's the best way for me to express myself and to tell a story. And even if that story, it's absolutely not about me, there is a lot of me inside of it, in a way. So
Absolutely. That's a very, very apt way of speaking about the process. I want to ask you maybe a little bit more about directing, since we're kind of on it. As you've kind of progressed throughout your career, can you give me a little sense of maybe what you've learned in working with actors and your casting process? And was it always very easy to work with actors for you, or how have you learned to approach that, kind of that communication differently over, the time of just directing?
I love working with actors. It's one of the perks, I think, of being a film director for me. And well, as I think Terry Gilliam said, the director's job is just to work with good actors, and then you're done. And he's right in many ways. And I spend a lot of time in casting, and I love it. Meeting a lot of actors, spending time rehearsing, understanding if they have good chemistry between each other, and then finally moving on to the set. But all the job is done before we go to set. So I like to do that. You always had great collaborations with them. I tend to work with the same actors over and over wherever I can. It was different for the last one just because, it was all in German, and none of my usual stock company I could speak German. So I had to recast everyone, but again, another chance to meet some other wonderful people. My process of working with actors, I think, it involves a lot of trust on both sides. I think they really need to understand what I'm trying to get out of them, and I think I put a lot of effort in explaining why I picked them rather than someone else. What is the quality that really sparked through them in me, that I could see the characters in them. And yeah, I had great collaborations towards the years. I mean, I have to mention Michael Lippman has been in all my movies since my university days. He's a wonderful, wonderful actors, and I love to give them as much freedom as possible to develop the characters even more. You know, that's why they're collaborators to me. They're not just props. I want to give them a character to develop and to make it grow, so that they bring something else on set. And then, of course, the trust. So they, you know, if I say that you should go in a certain direction, they know how to take it. I'm still the father figure of the project. So, yeah, I think that's the question. How to work with actors. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Okay, so I've got a nice sense of, you know, your early disposition and a little bit of your. There's a whole podcast on, you know, just. Directing and what it entails, many in fact, but I want to talk a little bit about a couple of projects that you specifically remember, because I'd like to get to Blondi, you know, your fabulous last film.
Thank you.
But I really want to get a sense of two projects that you enjoyed working on, that you remember the experience fondly, and maybe just just give me a sense of one, and we can move on to the next one. But
the first bigger production compared to, you know, the previous university exercises that I was doing is called The Liar in 2018. It was my graduation film, and so a chance to finally do something a little bit more expensive and with a bigger cast, with a bigger set, with more days of shooting, and more time to work on it, because on my previous short films I made, I think, a couple they were just, you know, done very quickly with not much freedom, just to meet some university guidelines, to, you know, just exercises. And this one was the one in which I had more of direction that I could choose, and I could pick all my team, and we spent almost a year working on it. And it's called The Liar, and I love the 60s, so we set it in the 60s.
Well, could you give me a little sense of the story? What, just kind of the overarching,
it's
if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. Set in 1963. It talks about a village fool in a small town in the UK that is certain that the new baker in town is Adolf Hitler. And he thinks Hitler, and you can see a recurring theme, and that's why, you know, I mentioned this project, because it is the genesis of Blondi. As we were outlining this one, I had to do my own research on this peculiar, horrible man, Hitler, and that's when I learned so much about him. And, you know, it's such a funny character to make fun of, being such a monster, of course, and that's where Blondi really comes from. So by making that, I think that's when we started also thinking about Blondi. So, but we're gonna get back to that later. So yeah, we shot it all around the UK. We shot it a bit in Kent, a bit in Ironbridge, and a bit in London.
How many days of shooting?
5, if I remember correctly. Nice. Yeah, in Surrey as well. We shot some bits.
What were the difficulties? You know, do you remember any of the really?
Yes. I mean, as I said, we prepped a lot with the actors, so I spent a lot of time in the pre-production getting everything as ready as possible, and I think that's one of my. I don't want to say. I suppose everybody does that, but if you are so ready when you step into the set, then you can afford to, you know, catch those little miracles that happen, and you can embrace them. If you know that everything is going according to plan, and, you know, you're respecting the schedule, and you're respecting the timetable, you're getting everything you plan to get, that's when the magic happens, that you can get something that you just cannot possibly expect. And those for me are the best moments in a film.
Yeah.
And so everything was perfectly, you know, organized, all the costumes, all the props. The actors knew exactly what they were doing, except for one, which I'm not going to name. But we had to recast one because we were trying to get a bigger name involved, and we got a few, actually. And again, it was my graduation film, so I wasn't even expecting that. But then I think the university got cold feet. Not the university as an institution, some people in the university. and they didn't make it happen.
Okay.
So not a fan of those people.
Huh.
And so in a few days, I had to rush to my casting director, Amina. I always work with her. And she had to find a replacement. And she found a great looking replacement for this character, which again, I don't want to be too specific because I don't want to offend anyone. And he was so kind to be part of the film anyway. But he assumed all these lines were to be, since he was, well, okay, I'll say, he was the narrator in the film.
Yeah.
He assumed it was just going to be voiceover.
Okay.
And instead, he was a narrator on camera. So he had to actually memorize entire monologues, pages and pages of dialogues. And this guy, again, amazing voice, great looking actor. He couldn't remember three words in a row. So that was a huge challenge. And again, we didn't have, everyone else was perfect. And just we didn't have the time and the chance to rehearse and to try. So it just comes on set. And we had to break these long takes that we had rehearsed and planned for a month with everyone else. We had to break them in literally like every 3 seconds. There had to be a cut or some words written down around all the locations so you could read, because no more than 3 words.
Yeah, that can happen. That's the truth. But I guess in a grad film, that's kind of what you kind of have to expect. These kind of things to happen. That's part of the process. You kind of go in with that. That's great. Can you tell me maybe a little bit after the production, after everything's shot, can you tell me a little bit about what it was like editing it, and a little bit about like any successes you had? Sure. And because I want to kind of go in with the next film we'll talk about and Blondi. I'd like to go through the whole process, but I want to hear your experience of like film festivals and that side of things as well.
Yeah, well, that was my first big success. I was not expecting it, as I said. It was a graduation film after all, and maybe because of the production value, because again, everything really felt 60s. We had a tank. My cinematographer had the tank, and it was like, okay, do you want to use it? Like, of course, let's write it into the script. I mean, you don't have that chance every day. So
a tank?
A tank, yeah, a World War II tank.
Really?
Yes.
Where?
In his garage, just lying there. It's one of those happenings, it's just if you have that opportunity to use a tank, you do.
Okay.
You write it into this whatever film you're making. You just add it. That and a bunch of other stuff like that immediately increase the production value hugely. And I think because of I'm also an editor, so I put that one together myself. I think it's around 20 minutes long, which is too long, but at the time it felt right. And yes, it went to I think about 30 film festivals, that one alone.
That's great.
Yes,
absolutely
it
awesome.
Went really well. And again, I was just out of university, so I didn't even know what to do with all these selections. I wasn't used to all that. I traveled a lot. I always try to accompany my films to festivals.
Yes.
I take it very personally. I think if you don't show up, it's useless that your film is playing there. And that's the only chances you have to see if your film is actually working or not. Is through the audience reaction. I don't know if you like Blondi, that's great, but I don't know if the film is actually. I love it, but I don't know if it's working until I see a crowd that I've never heard of that are paying a ticket and they're laughing, they're not laughing, they're crying, they're walking out. I mean, I even love the walkouts because it's sometimes that's
you're doing something
great.
Right, you're pissing people off.
Yeah, that's always
absolutely.
Always an achievement when everybody walks out angry. But no, I think you have to be there. It's your responsibility, it's your baby, and it's performing on stage in a way, and you want to be in the audience, just checking that it does fine. So with that one, I went to a bunch of festivals all around, and again, it allowed me to get a better sense also of the international scene and what other filmmakers were doing, which is essential. You need to know what's playing out there, what the other people are making, so that you can
know where you stand.
Not steal, but you can exactly. You can align your vision towards these modern trends in a way. Otherwise, if you stand out too much, it's not gonna work. You know that you're never gonna find a place. So you need to find your place between the current trends.
Yeah. Of course. That's a great way of kind of combining all of these learning experiences in your grad film. Can you tell me about one other project you've had some success with, or that you really enjoyed? Just again leading up to Blondi, just to get a better sense of kind of your kind of journey, from Rome to school to this current project you're on.
Yeah, well, so after I always try to make something completely different, just because again these films are not commissioned, so I'm doing them to test myself and to challenge what I can do. And if I know that I've done it already, no matter the result, if I've done it, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
Because it's a waste of my personal time. So after The Liar, I made another short film the following year, which is called La Petite Mort. And that one was extremely difficult to make for a number of reasons. And I really liked the film, but again, I was, after the success of The Liar, I was expecting to replicate that and to build on that. And I was too self-confident, which is a big mistake. And so after that one, which was having a lot of issues in the post-production, I felt a little bit down and I didn't know what to do next. Well, after The Liar, I already knew I was going to make this other film. I didn't know what to do after that one. And then COVID happened. Yeah. And with that, everything, of course, was shutting down. I didn't have any new ideas and stuff.
And you were in London?
I was in London, yeah. 6 months locked in my flat. And then I saw, as an epiphany, this picture of a priest baptizing a child with a water gun. I don't know if you've seen it.
I saw that I saw the trailer on your website.
Yeah, well, that's a real thing. That really happened. And it came to me in June. I saw it online, and that was absolutely like a miracle to me. It was shouting, "Go back on set, Jack. You need to direct something else." So after, I think I stopped for a while before working on that one. And usually it takes me about a year to work out the whole pre-production of a film. Sure. This one, it came to me in June. I put all my friends together. And again, we didn't even know if we could meet and go out. This is when, and we were, that film is a miracle. I shot it on film, which was
beautiful.
It was a dream of mine, Super 16. And we found some churches around Surrey, around the university. I wasn't in the university anymore, but I knew the area. So and luckily we got that window of about a week in which things were open, and then they shut down again. Yep. And so miraculously we got to go there. We were all sleeping in the hotel in Egham, and we shot it over 2 days, 2 days and a half, and it was because
Can you talk to me a little bit about the story of it again, just to get a sense of?
So it's the first film shot in Latin, as far as I'm concerned. The story is how the church adapted to COVID. And they were adapting all their rituals with the new norms that were given. So they were really doing that. Of course, then I put my own flair on top of it, making it a little bit more colorful. But everything is based on something that was going on around the world in those days. And so, as I mentioned, you get a priest doing a baptism with a water pistol, you get online confessions on Zoom, and you get the communion is given through like advice that the priest couldn't touch the holy bread, and if they just touched it, the bread would pop out like a plastic device, which I bought to still have. The church didn't like the movie. I got excommunicated because of it, and I'm not making fun of them in any way. It was just a way to explore something that I found extremely fascinating. If anything, I'm supporting them.
I think so. Yeah, you're just looking at a specific moment in kind of it's actually a great mix of where, religion meets, the biological issue of what COVID was, and you got excommunicated.
That really didn't. I mean, those guys have no sense of humor. Sorry to say. And they asked me to erase it and delete it, and they kept explaining like, no, this makes people laugh. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you, if you will. So just
Yeah.
You guys are doing it anyway. I'm just capturing it on film. But
was it a church? Was it the church you filmed at?
No. That's the thing. Like we filmed it in Windsor and in Egham and all around Thorpe. And all those, we filmed in 4 churches, and they were great. They were one was funny, but all the others were so supportive. The priests were on it. Because they saw it as what it was. It was a small project that became extremely important for me. As it was really my rebirth in many ways. I found a new light, a new reason to go back on set, and it was a communion to see all these people getting together. It was the first film I worked with Nacho as well. He was my assistant director on that one. And it was just, a beautiful moment of sharing something precious. And that's what religion should be, I guess. And that's why all the churches were supporting. Only one, I think it was on the second day, they were very strict. And I'm not sure about their sense of humor, but we needed that church for aesthetical purposes, and it was the only one that wasn't too far away, so we had to shoot there. And we couldn't tell them that it was somehow a comedy. Okay. So we only said, we need to shoot a baptism here. And it seemed all right, but then on the day, they gave us a lovely old lady that was very strict, and she came straight from hell, and she wouldn't allow us. She had a little bell, and the priest told her, okay, if these guys do anything that you don't think is compliant, ring the bell, we'll kick them out. And we had about an hour to shoot there before we had to storm off to Windsor to do another scene. So everything was extremely, as you know, we didn't have much time to waste, and I didn't know what to do. Of course, if this lady saw the huge water pistols that we were bringing on set, she would have rang the bell. So there were, we considered killing her, which we didn't. But we didn't know what. So we rehearsed the scenes outside. Okay. As people from my crew was just entertaining her, listening to her old stories. And then when we had to shoot inside, we did a real baptism, and the actors were just lost. It was like, I don't know how to do the real one, just pretend. And so we fakely shot 5 versions of a real baptism, very, very moving, with the child, the loving parents. And then, the sound recordist, the boom operator, we decided that he would say something at some point. So after 5 fake takes, he blamed the old lady of breathing too loudly, which obviously wasn't the case. And so we asked her, like, look, you're ruining all the films. Do you mind just stepping outside just for 1 take? And as soon as she was walking outside, from the back, we came in with all the water pistols. And I think we did only 2 takes of that. And then she walked back in, and we were out.
I love it.
It was a miracle.
That is a miracle, yeah. God was on your side.
Yeah, and we ran out of film with the last scene. The last scene we shot, the last take we had, literally as soon as the doors close and the film is over, you see the film really like flaring up because the camera ran out of it.
How many rolls of film did you have for that?
2.
2 rolls of film, my goodness. That's 20 minutes.
And the film is 6 minutes long.
Okay, wow. My goodness. Wow, amazing. What a cool experience. I've got churches can be difficult to shoot in for sure. I've found a few that are a little bit more lenient. One we shot for the right film, so maybe in the future if you need another church, I got you.
These guys that I worked with, I'm sure they, except maybe not this specific one, but I sent the films to the others, and they were huge fans of the final product, and I'm still in touch with them to an extent. And I think, they really understood what I was trying to do, which was not harmful in any way towards belief, towards faith at all. It was the other way. It was in support of it. So, look, remember, everything was closed. No shops, no cinemas, no restaurants. They found that the most ancient institution found a way to continue and go on. And that resilience, I thought, was to be captured and appreciated. Again, some people at the top dogs, didn't share my views, but c'est la vie.
Well, you got the film made, so that's amazing. I want to talk. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe the post production and kind of getting that film out into the world as well?
Yeah.
Can you just again to get a sense of like what that was like to?
Of course. Well, that was shot on film, as I said. So the fear of not having captured anything was incredible. What a feeling! And to an extent, I've been craving that in my later productions because, of course, when you shoot digitally, you can check immediately after a take, which is extremely useful. But you need to get it right, and you need to get it right in 2-3 takes. That really makes everything more important when you're on set.
Yes.
You cannot waste time. You need to take it more seriously, and it's more precious, the actual material that you're shooting, and that's something that I think it adds a lot of value to the projects. So that one, we had to wait a week before Pinewood sent me the film
You
rushes
brought the film
back.
into Kodak there. Love that.
That's right. They sent it back, and it
Nice
looked
guys.
magnificent.
Yeah.
And waiting those days, thinking, okay, maybe we were using the camera from like the 60s, so maybe nothing came out.
I know.
It was a great feeling, and so I edited the film as well. It's the only film in which I worked with a composer. I usually really like to use music that already exists.
Okay.
And in this one, because again, it's 5 rituals, it's 5 scenes. There's not really a story. I wanted a song to accompany the film from beginning to end, and it was a great experience to work with Omar. Chamsi Pasha was my composer for the film. And then I was very hopeful on that because also it's a time in which not many films were made. As I said, we got lucky to do it right in the middle of COVID in 2020. We started in June. We filmed it in August 2020. And it was ready by, I think, November, probably, 2020. So we released it, didn't go anywhere for almost a year, which was heartbreaking because I was like, okay, well, that's it. I cannot do anything better than this. And then after a year, it really got into Aesthetica, it got into Interfilm.
Yeah, congratulations. Aesthetica is a very exciting film festival.
It was great, yeah. And it was all the way to BAFTA shortlist even. Obviously, it did not win the BAFTA, but it got a lot of recognition, more than I expected, as always. And that one was, and I learned a lot by going around with that one in the festivals because I think the film is good when people come to you afterwards and tell you, oh, that's my favorite scene. And a lot of people tell me that they have different favorite scenes. For The Liar, everyone has a favorite scene and it's always the same one. That tells me, okay, the others are not as good.
Sure.
For this one, I have people that like every single scene.
Great.
So that's a good indicator that, okay, it works on many levels. And it was great to walk around with that one. It was in Latin. It's good to make a film where nobody understands the language. And again, it's always stealing a little the best of each project and bringing on to the next one. And that's definitely all these elements of not showing not being sure of what you're shooting, shooting in a language you don't understand. It's stuff that I took on Blondi.
You don't make it easy for yourself, my friend. You don't make it easy for yourself. But I truly commend that because you get, I think, maybe some unexpected results and you challenge yourself, and that's going to make you just such a stronger filmmaker as things go along, right? Like you want to test yourself, I think, with your films, and that, with the idea being that next time around, man, it's going to be just like this, whatever crazy idea I come
whatever
up with,
happens,
it's going to be easy.
To the point that, which is almost a danger, I think, after that one, I was just looking for something crazy rather than something good.
Okay.
I at that point became just a challenge, and that's a loophole that you don't want to be in.
Can I ask you, was Blondi that then?
No, not yet. I mean, as Blondi originated from the very beginning, but then I was always not ready. I think I wanted to do it, but I knew it was going to be way too much.
Okay.
Because for ones that don't know, Blondi, which is my last film, it's the first film ever shot by a dog, as far as I know.
As in the dog was your director, photographer,
100%.
cinematographer.
We did not have a cinema. We did. It was the dog.
Yeah, there it is.
And I mean, I cannot complain. She's
Crushed
genius. She's a genius. But yeah. I knew I needed a lot of costumes. It's set in the 40s. It's Hitler's dog.
Maybe because I think this is a perfect transition. Can you first tell me the story of Blondi? the film, or I don't know. I guess you don't want to. Maybe we don't want to necessarily give away the story. I guess since it's still doing its festivals and everything.
Oh
like
no,
that.
it's on Wikipedia.
Give the premise maybe or the log line.
Extremely historical. It's literally the perspective of the dog, but it's Hitler's dog.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of snapshots from her life, from eating the crumbs under the Führer's table at his birthday to the confinement of the bunker. And of course, for the dog, and that's the exercise I am challenging the audience with, the dog doesn't see Hitler as Hitler. Mm-hmm. For the dog, Hitler is daddy. And through the film, what I really try to achieve is that level of uncomfortable in which, it plays with your own knowledge of the man, and you hate him and you despise him, and you know what he has done. But as you watch it, the empathy you feel for the dog and the way that the dog sees this person in all the intimate moments of his life, of course, not when he's shouting, not when he's committing holocausts and atrocities, but only when maybe shaving, maybe when he's having dinner, when he's in the intimate corners of his existence, the dog was there. And so I think it casts a shadow over the knowledge that we all have on this figure. So to create that duplicity while watching the film, to at the end almost forget that guy is Hitler and almost feeling sorry for him, I think that's what I really wanted to. And of course, it's the wrong feeling, but that's what I was trying to get.
No, you achieved it. I mean, I think that's like a filmmaker's key responsibility is whatever that perspective is, whatever you're trying to get across, that the audience is right there with it. And man, do you achieve it, like absolutely in every way. And it's such an intelligent idea, and because it has nothing to, you're not so concerned. I'm sure you have your opinions on Adolf Hitler, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. There is something I don't like. There's the one thing I don't like about Hitler. No, I despise.
But that isn't about that. It's the dog. You are the dog in a way for that moment,
exactly.
And you want the dog to look at it as right. Exactly. You said it, Daddy. Like it's fantastic. Like it's really so nicely done. So my question is, can you tell me? It sounds like I understand the how you got to it from research from a previous project. Can you tell me about some of the difficulties on set in production? I mean, with shooting with a dog like this, just tell me a little bit about that process of casting the dog and working with the actors in this way, where the dog is essentially the main character. Tell me about it.
Wonderful experience. Maybe the best experience I had, because I never worked with an animal before. I love dogs. I have a dog. It's called Tuco in Rome. Tuco, and this is my son. And so it was the inspiration for it. I always wanted to, but again, I always had Blondi in mind. I always wanted to tell this story. I think didn't know how to achieve it. I think the technology wasn't good enough a few years ago when I was trying to tackle it at first, and then I knew that the production value had to be bigger. And so finally then, after I was, in between Sed Libera Nostra Malo, which is the church film, and another film I made, which is shot on a roller coaster, I was like, okay, maybe after I'm done with this one, which is a smaller film, maybe it's time for my bigger work. And I thought, okay, now technology is on my side. The cameras can be as small as you want, and because at first, I was thinking, okay, we just replicate a dog, but that's the easy way to do it. And as I said, I'm not in for the easy way. A lot of cinematographers told me during the years of pre-production, "You're crazy." I am, but they told me, you should absolutely hire someone that mimics the movements of the dog with the camera. Nobody's going to see the difference. Fuck them. They're wrong. You can see the difference big time. I wanted to have it real. So there is even a camera that walks like a dog. I don't know if you've seen those.
No.
I don't know what's the point of those, but there is a camera that with 4 legs that literally walks. So for a while we thought, okay, we can use that one, and then it just came to me. I was like, well, let's do the real thing.
Wow.
And how to cast a dog? I was thinking first of, we almost worked with the dog from Afterlife. I don't know if you've seen the Ricky Gervais show.
I haven't. No, that's cool.
There is obviously for historical purposes, it had to be a German Shepherd.
Yes.
And we got the dog from Afterlife for a while. Not Ricky Gervais, the actual dog. And but then I had a meeting with Bob Richardson, the DOP from The Eightful Eight, most of Tarantino movies, Fargo, The Coen Brothers. He's a genius, probably the best around today. Yeah. I met him at an event, and I asked him, how outraged can you be if I add to your category a dog? Because, if you are really upset, then maybe I will think, no, he was honored. He was like, please go ahead. I would love to have a dog as a colleague. And he gave me the most precious advice, which is don't work with a professional dog for this film. Because if you do, they will just respond to a trainer in front of them.
Okay.
And you need an actor in front of them. So they will just stay still for the whole film. So just work with a dog who is just well behaved and is nice and is not afraid of a lot of people. That's your actor.
Wow.
And that's your cinematographer, has been renamed.
Nice.
After that, we went, okay, how do we find just a general German Shepherd, generic one? And I found some Facebook groups of people that really like their dogs, and I posted, do you want your dog to be a star? Get in touch. That was about a year ago, around December, I think. And a lot of people replied. And while I'm extremely thorough when I'm casting actors, we need several rounds of casting. With the dog, it was love at first sight. We met at the park near her house in Greenwich. The dog is called Lexi. And immediately I was like, that's my Blondi.
Great.
And we formed a special bond. We rehearsed with the dog for a while, and during the film, it was not just the mascot of the film, but she was really carrying the whole weight.
Yeah, it can be hard with animals, especially shooting with them for multiple days. I've heard different stories with grad films that I've worked on where, animals can be it's obvious, like they can be a bit unpredictable. So I'm curious a little bit. It was totally a dream.
She was a dream to work with, to the extent that
got lucky.
I really want to shoot more films with her.
Yeah, great.
Because the other DOPs I had were always amazing. They always gave me exactly what I wanted. Never had problems. But she's cuter. I'm sorry, but she's amazing. She never complained.
Good vibe on set for sure when you have an animal.
The best part, I think, which everyone benefited from, is that everyone had to think, okay, I don't know where the camera is going to be. So that meant, from a set perspective, we're not just dressing a corner, because I know we're shooting there. We're dressing an entire room. And I don't know if the take is going to be 5 minutes, 5 seconds, or 20 minutes. I'm not sure, because it depends where the dog goes. That's what I told all the actors. I'm not even sure if you're going to be featured in the movie. I want you to be there. I want you to do your thing. I want you to improvise a lot. The screenplay was just an idea. We didn't have lines for this one, really. I just wanted them to be in character and to inhabit those costumes and those props around them, just in case Blondi would run by.
Yeah.
So, we had scenes in Hitler's office, and all the paperwork on the desk would be accurate. If you open a drawer, they would find objects that he could use, And
that's where the brilliant Alice Gagari production designer came in. Oh,
yes, absolutely.
Even the Nazi flags you have in the background,
Everything.
I think that's a very strong, actually, it kind of goes without saying, but like when you have the dog, it's like there's the big splashes of production design you need. And I think that's the key of it, is like, when you're from the dog's perspective, quite low like that, to see the big red with the Nazi symbol in that office scene is great. I don't know, it's so simple, but I think that's the things that make for great films, is just simple perspective stuff, the camera moving in such a way, the sound.
Oh, the sound design is so good. Ben Gale did
so
it. Key. Everything really worked out on this one. But but that's exactly, I think it was very beneficial for the actors too, to find themselves in a space that they could really be so playful.
And brilliant acting all the way through. And again, the way that the camera is sitting on the dog, to see all the actors so clearly and in such a specific way, it's quite a unique perspective, because we're always eye to eye, you know what I mean? Easy.
You're always low
Why
here,
would you ever
but
be...
they're always interacting. Everything I pick is always the interactions with the dog.
And it's perfect because you've got those hero shots, right? And the dog is looking at all these people as heroes, right? You don't think about it, but that's the dog's perspective, is they see you as God, you know?
Exactly. Well, it's precisely that. And
it all fits together so well, and that's your doing, I think, to just go like, well, this makes sense to do it this way. I've got this brilliant idea for a story, and you let the blocking of it and the just the narrative, kind of the natural way that the scene would present itself anyways.
I let it all
just
away.
As it was
yes, but I let a lot of, if not all, the control away, which was it was a relief in many ways. You know, a director always tries to get as much control over the image as possible, over the frame, and for once this time I was like, I'm gonna get no control whatsoever. I cannot give any direction to what we are filming. You know, I can tell the actors what to do, and all the actors were sensational. So I could work with them in a way that I've never worked with any actor before, because it was just about maybe a little movement of their hand, or you know, it wasn't about the tone of the scene, because they had that. It was about the little nuances of again, just was moving around the space maybe. And I couldn't say anything to the dog. I mean, it was a miracle. The chances that the dog would just go in a corner and we wouldn't see anything were massive. That she would hide, and no, she just did everything as expected. We never wasted one take because the dog wasn't ready. The dog was always perfect. And, you know, there is... You know, when you're on set, it takes, obviously, for the right reasons, don't get me wrong, I get it. You need hours to set the lights properly, the spark, and this one we didn't have any lights. You can tell it's a beautiful looking film, but it was everything natural, because every time we were shooting almost all the time.
So, go on a GoPro?
Yes.
Wow.
We stick the GoPro on the German Shepherd.
Just 4K setting, you know, standard or wide, I don't know,
and
whatever.
again, something that maybe 3 years ago we couldn't have done it, because GoPros existed, but they weren't as good as they are now. And that's why, you know, it was a further decision to be like, we can afford to do it with a GoPro. It's not going to look as good as
it looks great.
An Arriflex, obviously, but it does the job. I prefer having the authenticity of a dog operating it than you know, sure, everything is in my control, and we put the lights wherever we want, and we have an experienced DOP behind the camera, and is shooting 8K, but what for?
I get it. And it's just I think it's got to be my favorite. I mean, if any GoPro film I've seen, it's my favorite. I mean, I'm not just saying that. Like, I'm just trying to think now. I know there's a lot out there, but definitely just in my mind right now for sure. That's fantastic. So I've got a really, really good idea of some of the aspects of Blondi that were actually seems like less difficult than maybe it seemed in the film. You know, when I'm just imagining like a horror show of just like dogs running off. And
no, it was on set. It was absolutely a dream. Absolutely, we didn't have any issues at all, except on the last day when I mean, the best part also is that we shot it all chronologically, which is something I've never done. Because of production, you know, issues, you just have to shoot whatever is more convenient. This one, it was essential that we shot it in this way, because we just didn't know what was going to happen in the previous scene to follow on. You know, if the dog just, you know, did something specific, we need to catch on that for the next scene.
Sure.
So we shot it all chronologically, which was incredible in a way to feel more, you know, the scene when... Well, I mean, historically, unfortunately, Blondi was killed in the bunker just before Hitler kills himself to test the cyanide capsules. And when we got there, it really felt real in a way. It felt the dog is going to die now, just because we spent days up to that point, to the lead up of that. And again, there were many times in which we were just testing something else or getting ready. We were always ready to shoot. We were shooting all the time. So when we got to that moment, it felt real.
That's
and,
fantastic.
You know, it was extremely emotional for everyone.
So can I ask you, would you consider shooting chronologically for future films?
Absolutely. I will.
You really felt, because I feel like all the films I've done at school, producing, anything, completely out of order, completely, and I feel like I kind of just... like so you succumb to the AD who just says, listen, we're putting this upside
Of course.
down, we're going to go
Of
over
course.
here and do this because it just makes sense. But I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for
It makes
that.
such a difference.
Right?
I will always, I mean, even if it's way more expensive and
Do it.
impractical,
You figure out other things.
Blondie wouldn't be like this if we didn't do it this way.
There you go.
So 100%.
You heard it here. This chronological thing works.
Chronological works, and the way that the actors can bond with each other,
Yeah.
it's just unparalleled.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
need
yeah.
to
And
do it
it's
that way.
if you're really thinking we're making a story here,
Yeah.
we're not just doing like a fun puzzle thing, you know, that we save money on.
No, but it's just
It's like you gotta do the thing.
Exactly. It's sometimes it's not practical. It was practical for Blondie, but I understand in the previous film
Sure.
it would have been almost impossible. But it's just all the elements of the production, they merge into the right feelings in a way. When the film is finishing, everyone feels the same.
Mm-hmm.
Also the crew, you know. And for Blondie, it was definitely that. Of course, we are in the bunker at the end of the war. Everything is falling apart. Hitler is going to kill himself. The war is lost.
Mm-hmm.
But the crew also felt that.
Yeah.
Not just the actors making something up, getting into their own zone and pretending something. You were feeling the rush because we were running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
The movie was almost done. We had police storming into the bunker because a lot of people called the cops. We shot it in Gravesend in Kent. There is a World War II bunker, which is magnificent. And a lot of people saw a bunch of Nazis hanging around the bunker. And as I said, no cameras, no lights, no boom operator. So some people actually believed the Nazis, they did it. They came to the UK. And, you know, we had to shoot the last frames of the film, knowing that we had a few minutes before we would lose the last train and we would be stuck in Kent for the night.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so it's quite late at night.
Yeah, we were obviously, you know, it was taking longer than expected.
Yeah.
And as that was happening, we had the police storming in, and they had all my crew stopping them before arriving in the room where we were shooting that last scene. If the dog would just go in the other scene, in the other room, she would see all the cops just there trying to stop. And, you know, which they were great at the end and understood we were doing a film. But still, the fact that we could feel literally the pressure, you know, we could feel them on our necks around the corner, like the Russian troops invading the bunker. It was, you know,
you created
the heartbeats were there for all of us. And it wasn't just a make-believe from the actors.
You created a very palpable atmosphere. That's fantastic. Yeah. What an exciting experience. How did you monitor? Were you just taking the GoPro off, having a look at whatever was shot, or just...
So there is a way to check it on. So we had an iPad and we could see live what the.
Nice.
But as soon as you move, as soon as the dog was running a little bit off, we would lose signal. So that was the idea. And then when we realized on the first day that couldn't really be done, then I was always trying ways to hide on set, which again, because for me, I hate monitors. I hate to look at monitors. They are there for me, these actors doing some wonderful performances, and this is my only chance to see it live. You know, if I will spend the rest of my life watching it on a screen, today I can see it 360, so I'm not missing that. And so, like on the second day, for instance, I was hiding. We found a wood panel, and I was just like crouching down, and I'm sure you can see me in the film. Like there's my eye, just like one eye is like spying on them as the action was happening. And of course that would save a lot of time because then I didn't have to wait 20 minutes to check the scenes afterwards. Sure. But I immediately could tell, okay, this actor has to do it this way, or the dog just went in the wrong direction, maybe. You know.
Got it.
To the point that when we were shooting one take in the office, for instance, I was behind the dog and the dog decided to turn around, and I started like just going back as much as possible with my body. The producer was behind me and I found myself completely upside down. He was holding my legs and I couldn't say cut because the scene was so good, and even if the dog was turning, all the actors were turning with the dog. So it was just, and that's the take we used in the movie. And I just didn't know where else to go, and I kept going back and back, and it just, you know, he was pulling me from my legs like that in order for me not to crash on the dog, basically. And I was right behind it, but still, it was so essential for me to be present.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. I think this idea of, right, I mean, if this is kind of a lifelong goal or a lifelong ambition or passion, I think as a director, your mind, your brain's got to be in that camera sometimes, I think, and you really have to have an understanding a little bit of what's being seen. So if you can see where the camera is and you can see where the actors are, the only way you can be there is in between, right? And I
agree. I mean, you trust your cinematographer even when the cinematographer is a dog. You need to trust where the camera goes. And that, I know, I think for me at least, I don't look into that anymore. You know, I see the frame at the beginning, I see the frame at the end. That's all I need to know.
And that requires an incredible amount of trust in yourself, I think.
In my crew. Mm-hmm. More than in myself. They know what they're doing. They're the best at what they do. Mm-hmm. And my job is just to work with them. Mm-hmm. And I trust them. So I check what they do, and that's all. Yeah. You know, I don't want to look at the camera as the film is playing, because I want to see the film. I want to see the action unfolding.
I mean, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing some of these experiences from Blondi. Can I ask you, film is shot. You're out of the bunker. Yep. Everything's done. Tell me a little bit about the post-production process, and then a little bit about what your experience is, because you had a wonderful screening in Leicester Square.
Yeah,
and maybe September. Talk a little bit about that as well. But yeah, post-production, and then maybe a little bit about that.
Well, I wanted to edit this one myself, like the others, but it was different because usually it's a very simple task for me to edit, because my films are one takes, or at least one take per scene. So you know, you just have to put them together, but there's not much cuts. This one, it's a series of jump cuts. So I knew that I really had to do it myself, because I had to watch the whole footage and just select the bits that would speak to me in a way. And I logged myself in the editing room, and I've done one scene per day. So I was budgeting 2 months to edit, and I've done it in a week.
Wow.
Because I was doing one scene per day. And I just couldn't stop. I don't know how long it took me. It took me probably like about a full day per scene.
Sure.
But I couldn't interrupt the flow and go back to it another day. And then we had a few cuts of the film, I think. Now it's locking at 19 minutes. We had one that was a little bit longer, in which we never cut like a whole scene or anything. It was just some scenes were going on for a little bit too much, maybe. And then, of course, when you screen to your producers, then you get some first reactions. Even if you have some great moments, you know, you have to trim it. The idea was to have it around 15 minutes. It's 19, so it's a bit longer, but it's still within the frame that I was aiming for. And it's as long as it deserves, I think. There are ways to make it shorter, but I really thought the performance of the dog, it's so good, and unexpectedly so in a way, that I wanted to really preserve those moments, even if they were going longer than anticipated length. We have some VFX in this one, made by a good friend of mine, genius VFX artist, George, and we have some absolutely perfect sound design that took a couple of months to get it right, because it's, in a way, it's like telling another story through sound design. I mean, obviously that applies to every movie, but I think especially in this one, because sure, it's not Hitler's office, it's Senate House next to Tottenham Court Road, you know. Even if they look right, or the bunker, again, above the bunker there is a park with children playing, and instead we needed the war. So the sound design had to build an entire set, even if it wasn't there. And they really do a wonderful job. You can feel, you know, I love the little details that nobody will ever notice, but, you know, at the beginning of the scenes in the bunker, you start hearing some bombs and some artillery. Towards the end, you only hear Russian artillery and just like one or two German guns. It's the little things that I think, you know, nobody could tell, but they're there in a way.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And you can hear, you know, the screams and the bombings and the airplanes flying over, even if you don't see this stuff, but they're there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you, when you've had a cut that you were editing, you know, it's only you. Who was the first person you shared it with to get a second opinion?
It was my producers. I sent it to. I trust them like more than myself.
Yeah.
Nacho is one.
Yeah.
My brothers, Nacho and Pablo, they produced the film, and they were also my assistant directors on the film.
Great.
And then James, another producer, and Jamie. So they were the first people to see it. Their opinion mattered the most to me because they've been with me all the time through the production. And I think they are also the only people that have seen it before I screened it to everyone. And of course, people in sound design and people in the color grading it. But otherwise, I wanted to keep it from the actors until the day that I played it for them in September. So also because, I did that mistake before, that if you just ask for too many opinions at some point, everyone has their perspective, of course, and they may be right or wrong, but then you have so many, and then inevitably you have to go against some people because all these opinions don't match. And then these people take it personally, and then they're like, okay, well, then I don't like the movie because you didn't do it the way I suggested. And so I'm sticking to just the people that can have a saying on things at first.
Absolutely. So I think that actually transitions quite nicely into the screening you had in September. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was great. Audience was very nice. We played it in the Odeon Lux in Leicester Square. It was a full house. We had over 200 people coming in. I didn't know most of them. For me, it's very important to play the films for the first time with the actors and the crew, to share it with them. Of course, you see it by yourself on the computer in your house. It's a different setting. It's a communal moment. We've been through this journey together, and it's not the end of it, but it's the end result. So it's good to share it. And, of course, they deserve to see it on the big screen as well. And of course, the one in Odeon is in Leicester Square. It's one of the finest screens I've ever seen. So it was a little gratification that they deserve to, and the actor who plays Hitler is called Nicola Pedrozzi. He flew all the way from Switzerland on purpose just to to see the final product. A lot of people flew on purpose just to see it, and to be there together meant a lot to me, and hopefully to them as well.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on that screening. And I think basically what sounds like is Blondi is I'm sure there's things happening, and I'm super excited. I would love to be able to, once Blondi is out there, whatever you decide to end up doing with it, I'm sure it's going to have success. So
fingers crossed. I am really proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm still in the process of not want to change anything on it. I still think, it's the best possible way it could have been.
Yep.
Might change my mind in 6 months,
Sure.
but so far so good. We finished it in August. The whole post-production was done at the end of August. And I haven't seen it since, but yes, hopefully we'll get into some festivals in the near future. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, I wish the best. So my question is, you've got this incredible film under your belt. What's next? What's next?
Good question. Well, I kind of feel I've explored everything I wanted to explore in short films. I've been doing it for 10 years now almost, and ideas have to come to me. I don't like to look for them, and they need to fall in love with them. So it takes a while to feel, okay, this is going to be my next work. So I'm not saying I'm done, but I'm saying now I'm still I'm still charging up after 8 years of working on Blondi. But I want to explore something else. Of course, I have a few feature films ready to go. That's a new challenge. Never worked directing a feature film, different industry, different kind of budgets, different problems that come with it. So that would be ideal to start making something for a different market. And then I'm also I'm with my writer that we worked on most of my films together. It's called Lawrence. We are adapting a screenplay I wrote in 2021 into a play. Again, theater. I've never done it before.
Oh, cool.
Probably, not my field, but still, since I really like single takes, this is a very long single take in the theater. So I'm still tackling it from the same perspective of a filmmaker, even if it's going to be on a stage. And it's even my screenplay is adapted from a Japanese film from the 60s.
Okay.
It's called Death by Hanging. It's a masterpiece. And I love the film very much. And of course, I hate remakes. And this is just an adaptation. I'm just from the Japanese setting. I'm setting it into Florida in the 60s. And it's all set inside one room, the execution room. And instead of hanging, this is going to be with the electric chair. And it's called Hot Seat. So I wrote that, and since it's just in a single room with a few actors, I always had in mind potentially putting it on a stage. And now my writer, Lawrence, is helping me to reshape it in a way that is more congenial for theatrical purposes. So hopefully, in the next few months, it's going to be done, and I will try. That's the new adventure for me, trying to put it on a stage with some actors.
Amazing. Well, Jack Salvadori, I want to thank you so much for being on the London United Filmmaker podcast. Is there anything else you want to cover? I think we've covered everything really nicely.
That's all. Past, present, and future.
It's a lovely profile of your career. I just wish you the best, and I know great things are going to be happening, not only with Blondi, but with your films in the future. So, I wish you the best, and it's just so good to meet you and learn a little bit more about your filmmaking. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Of course.
See you soon.